Elder Nielson, it's a pleasure to have you in the Caribbean area.
Thank you.
We've been able to learn from you and from Elder Suarez in all the meetings we've participated. We understand that this is a historic meeting, the one that you just had with stake presidents and other leaders. And I understand that it was done before, and for some time it was discontinued, and now we're doing it again. Why is that, and why these meetings are so important?
I think the First Presidency and the 12 felt like that it was time for the Quorum of the 12 to meet face-to-face with the stake presidents and just be with them. We've had priesthood leadership conferences, which have been wonderful, where we invite all of the leaders, we invite the sister leaders. They've been great meetings. But sometimes the men with the keys need to talk to the men with the keys. And I think they felt strongly that they needed to, at this time, start those again and go back and meet all of those stake presidents across the world. So it's already begun. I already did it in the western part of the United States with Elder Bednar. We met with all the stake presidents in California, Washington, Oregon, Alaska, and Hawaii. And I'll be with Elder Suarez as we go to the Pacific and meet with all the presidents there. So it's a great experience to meet the leaders of the church.
Actually, you've had a 4.5 hours meeting today.
Yes.
And maybe this time what I want to ask you is, most of the people would think that you come to teach and people will learn from you, right? And I'm pretty sure that many learn many things today from you.
Yeah.
The question here is, what have you learned because of your participation in these meetings today?
I think just being there in person with the stake presidents gives you a good feel for what is happening with them. Their questions that they ask, the concerns that they express are very important for us to learn. And some of them ask really good questions. Some of them express concerns that were very heartfelt and that we need to pay attention to. So it's been a blessing to be with them and to feel of their spirit.
I'm pretty sure that answering those questions, and people may think, well, you're a general authority, you're a special witness, and Elder Suarez, he's a member of a Quorum of the 12, so you have all the answers. But I guess it takes hard work to have inspiration, to have the Spirit.
Yeah.
How do you prepare to travel around the world, to face this many people with different experiences and needs and challenges, and still be able to come with inspired, wonderful, if not answers, at least inspirational comments that will help them to find their own answers?
Yeah.
How do you prepare for that?
Well, first I would say that the issues that happen all across the world are very common. I mean, the issues that our members are facing in the Caribbean are very similar to the issues in the Pacific area, very similar to the issues in Colombia and Ecuador, where I work, even similar to the issues in California and other places. So there's very common issues, and then sometimes there's things that are very specific. And so when there are specific issues, for example, what's happening in Haiti today is very unusual. And so we need to learn carefully what's going on there and understand their challenges and understand what is causing them to struggle as bishops and stake presidents. So we meet regularly with the area presidency here. Every week we get a report from them. We have video conferences with them regularly, Elder Suarez and I, so we try to know what's happening in this area regularly, at least weekly. We know what's going on.
We know that during this visit, you've also had not only the chance to meet with leaders and members and missionaries, but you've also met with government authorities. We understand you met with the vice president of the country.
Yes.
How was that experience, and why would the church do things that involve the church with the government in humanitarian work?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that we've been very impressed with the vice president of this country. That was our second meeting with her, and she is very kind, she's very receptive, she's very forward-looking. We've been impressed with her, and it was great to go see her again this week. And our purpose No, the Lord taught us when he was here on the earth that the two great commandments are to love God and to love your neighbor. And as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we need to be sure that we love our neighbor. And so we do everything we can with humanitarian aid to help people around the world. And so whatever country we go to, we try to find out what can we do to help. What are your needs here? Is there something we can do to contribute to our neighbor here in the Caribbean area? And that's what we do. And so wherever I travel, wherever I go, and especially when a member of the 12 is with us, we go meet with the government leaders and we give assistance. Right now, we're over Tonga, Elder Suarez and I, and they just had a volcano that erupted there, and it just is covered with ash. And so we have a big humanitarian effort going on right now in Tonga, where we're bringing water and food and clothing, and we do that wherever we see something happen, we're there. And we try to be first there, first on the ground.
We all know that the church, as you said, try to be there first, right? And be a quick responder to things, right? But what could members as individuals do to supplement the wonderful work that the church does institutionally, but in a more individual, intimate, and personal way?
Yeah. Well, we hope that our members everywhere are doing that all the time. When they see something in their community where they need help, that they're there. I know when we had a huge hurricane that happened in Houston, Texas, the call went out to all of the stakes surrounding the hurricane, and they said, we need 3,000 men to come tomorrow to help cut trees off of roads and clean up neighborhoods. And 10,000 showed up from our church. And that's the kind of amazing local effort that is made regularly. When our leaders know there's a need, local leaders, they respond. The famous quote from Houston, maybe you know, is they interviewed a woman and she said there's two groups that have helped us the most: the Mormons and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's my favorite quote.
You have a chance to travel with members of the Quorum of the 12. You mentioned Elder Bednar and now Elder Suarez, and you're over different parts of the world. That's a very unique experience. What does it mean to you, and what could you share with others from your experience of traveling and seeing them minister and receive inspiration and teach the pure doctrine of the gospel and bless the people wherever they go?
Well, whenever anyone asks me, what does the 70 do? The answer is whatever the 12 ask us. In the 107th section of the Doctrine and Covenants, verse 38, it says that the 12 call upon the 70 instead of any others. And so whenever the 12 need something done, they call on the 70. And so as 7 presidents who supervise the work of 384 70s around the world, we always ask ourselves, what does the 12 want us to do? Because that's what we do. And so to travel with the 12 and to see them with the members and to see the feelings that the members have for the 12 is really amazing. The members of the church love the apostles, and it's just a wonderful thing to be an eyewitness to them and to support them and to sustain them, make sure their needs are met and that they're able to just focus on ministering to people when they're there. So I consider it a very great blessing and a sacred opportunity to travel with all of the 12. And I've traveled with all 15 of them that are now in the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12. And it's been a great blessing to be with them.
Could you describe to us not only the function, but how you work together and the unity that exists amongst members of the Presidency of the 70?
Yeah, thank you. The 7 Presidents is a doctrinal calling. In the 107th section of the Doctrine and Covenants, it describes what the 7 Presidents do, and it describes that they actually call other 70 to assist in the work. And so under the direction of the First Presidency and the 12, we spend most of our time finding other 70. So when I go to, in a few weeks I'll go to California, and I will spend my weekend interviewing possible future 70. When I was just in Ecuador and in Colombia, when I'm there, I spend a day interviewing future 70, because our responsibility is to find other 70 across the world. And so in my areas, I have lists of people who are future 70 that we can call 5 years and 10 years from now. We create a huge database of who our future 70 are. But perhaps the best part of this assignment is that every Tuesday and Wednesday morning, in the meeting of the Quorum of the 12, the 7 presidents join the 12. They bring us into every one of those meetings that they have. And that's a great privilege to serve with them and to be there as they discuss issues, as they counsel together. We get a very good eyewitness view of what they want to have done. And so when we go out to do what the 12 ask us to do, we were there in the room when they made those decisions. We know what they want to teach, what they want to say, and that's a really important thing for the 7 presidents to have that experience.
Some people may say that the world is living a faith crisis, crisis of faith. Actually, there's research showing that churches in general, all churches, are losing members, especially amongst the youth. We know that the First Presidency and the 12, they have done many things and authorized programs and resources to strengthen and promote the thriving of the youth in the church. What would you say is the antidote or the medication for this illness that the world, some may say that the world is going through some sort of illness, which is related to the loss of values, being one of those, the value of faith? What would be the medication for that?
Well, I think the Lord's given it to us. In Doctrine and Covenants, section 1, verse 17, the Lord says, knowing the calamities that would come upon the inhabitants of the earth, that he called Joseph Smith. And the question is, why did he call him? But it's interesting what he says. He called Joseph Smith to give him commandments. And those people who live the commandments have wonderful, joyful lives. And those people who don't, people who say, I don't want to have those values, good luck. You're on your own. I hope things work out for you, because it's not pretty. I spent most of my life as a trial lawyer, and it's an ugly world out there. And those people who keep the commandments of God, it's amazing what happens. I love King Benjamin in Mosiah 2. He says, I would that you would consider on the blessed and happy state of those who keep the commandments of God. For they are blessed in all things, both temporal and spiritual. And as I travel the world, wherever I go, I've been to Malaysia and Hong Kong and the Philippines and the Pacific and Brazil and Mexico. Everywhere I go, I see the blessed and happy state of those who keep the commandments of God. And when they don't, good luck. It's a rough world out there. So the antidote is to love God, to love your neighbor, and to keep his commandments. And it's a pretty simple formula. I was in a meeting in Washington, D.C. I had an assignment to go there. And I was sitting at a table. This sometimes sounds like a joke, but I was sitting at a table with a Catholic priest, a Jewish rabbi, and a Baptist minister. And they were at my table. And at the time, I was the director of the missionary department of the church. And they knew that that was my assignment. And to my surprise, the Jewish rabbi said to me, how is it that you get 70,000 young men and young women to come and serve in your church? He said, we can't even get them to come to church. And the Catholic priest said the same thing, and the Baptist minister. How do you do that? How do you get this generation of kids to come and be part of your church? And I told them it was all about covenants. It was all about keeping commandments. It was all about loving God more than you love yourself and loving your neighbor. And it was quite an interesting moment to have them. They knew the number. They were impressed that we were able to get this generation to go leave their homes and go out and serve the Lord. And that was quite an interesting conversation.
Based on what you felt, what you've learned, and your experience during these few days, what would you say to the members in the Caribbean so they can press forward in the covenant path and be faithful Christians?
Well, I think they need to understand that God really does live. And as President Nielson said to us in the last General Conference, there really is truth. There is a difference between right and wrong, even though we read differently on the internet, even though people want to make up their own values and make up their own truth. People have a tendency to say, this is my truth. There isn't such a thing as my truth. It's God's truth. And when we understand the difference between right and wrong, and we live the gospel of Jesus Christ, the heavens open and amazing blessings come. And so if you want to be happy, if you really want to have your family live in a state of happiness and peace, the formula is really simple. We love God, we love our neighbors, and we keep the commandments. And it's been a time-tested formula since the very beginning of time. And it's simple. It doesn't require any major effort on our part other than to love God, love our neighbor, and keep the commandments. It's pretty simple.